Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 68 of Paul Heyman's TNA, and we're here with Impact, which I hope is going to be better than last week's episode, and I thought we'll just go straight into a match. Abyss versus Alex Shelley is a great clash of styles, a no DQ match which does play into the favour of Abyss, and in 11 minutes and 4 seconds he wins with a pinfall. It's two decent performances despite it being a little bit of an underwhelming match. I did set it to wild brawl, so probably again plays into the favour of Abyss. It's described as a good match, and afterwards Chris Sabin joins his partner in the ring, checking on Shelley, who lays motionless following the defeat. While focused on Shelley, Sabin doesn't notice that Abyss is looming over him. The monster grabs Sabin by the hair, brings him back to his feet, before dropping him with a chokeslam as well. With both Motor City Machine Guns down, Abyss and his father James Mitchell leave up the ramp, crossing paths with Jimmy Jacobs and the Kings of Wrestling as they do. Once in the ring, Jimmy Jacobs squats beside the former World Tag Team Champions, telling them that the Kings of Wrestling accept their challenge to a rematch, and they'll see what is left of the Motor City Machine Guns at against all odds. Didn't put Claudio on screen for some reason, just a slight oversight. Doesn't matter too much, and also during this segment it's confirmed that Roderick Strong and Kurt Angle will face Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli later on tonight. And speaking of Roderick Strong, last week he was betrayed by Generation Me, and we see footage from earlier today. JB approaching Generation Me as they entered the building. He asked them about their actions when they walked out on Roderick Strong during the main event. Matt Jackson arrogantly tells JB that gold medalists, showing him the gold medal from the World X Cup that the two men still carry around their necks. Gold medalists don't owe an explanation to anybody, especially not losers like Jeremy Borash. However, they will take delight in speaking to Roderick Strong later on. They're ready to deliver some home truths to the captain. Very cocky, a complete change in their personalities, and they're obviously holding on to the fact that they're World X Cup gold medalists. In the back, we see Bryan Danielson in heated conversation with Paul Heyman, the man in charge, waiting to bring Desmond Wolfe in to talk to Bryan, but Danielson's not having it. When Wolfe enters the room, he offers Bryan a handshake, but it's of course rejected. Wolfe tells Bryan that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and right now, they both want to fight the forefathers, so why don't they just put their differences aside for now? Danielson doesn't want to hear it, but Heyman tells him that he needs to listen. Against all odds, Heyman is putting Bryan in a match against Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, and whether he likes it or not, his partner is going to be Desmond Wolfe. Bryan shakes his head. He is furious that he's being put on the same team as somebody who he simply doesn't and cannot trust. As he walks out the room, he tells Paul Heyman that when Desmond Wolfe reveals whatever game he's been playing, Danielson is holding Heyman to account. Wolfe's going to think that he's pulling the wool over Bryan's eyes, but Bryan's making it clear that he knows exactly what he expects from Wolfe, and he thinks it's just a matter of time before Wolfe shows what his true nature is. Again, we are hinting at a future face turn of Desmond Wolfe, but that could obviously still go either way. We then get a poor, it's not that bad, but the red note of the crowd being turned off by people who they don't have investment in. That's quite disappointing to see from Austin Creed and Douglas Williams, a sign that I haven't booked them fantastically, it has to be said, but with a decent reaction, albeit subpar wrestling. Douglas Williams defeats Austin Creed in 10 minutes and 23, uses the Chaos Theory suplex, but at some point there's a tainted element to his victory, just establishing that he is still very much a heel. Having been on commentary during the match, Larry Sweeney walks down to the ring and joins Douglas Williams in the ring as he is standing tall. He's looking to gauge Williams' reaction, asking what he thinks. You know, he gave him his card last week. Is he any closer to giving him a decision? But Sonjay Dutt, who was at ringside, comes between the two men. He confronts Sweeney, telling him to get out of here. He clearly doesn't want to see the ranks of Sweet and Sour strengthened, especially having just seen what Williams is capable of in that previous match. Grabbing him from behind, Williams delivers a stiff European uppercut, dropping Sonjay in the ring. He does, however, not leave with Larry Sweeney and heads up the ramp alone. Still, we don't really know where Williams stands. Homicide then cuts a promo in the back, talking about his match tonight with Tyson Dukes. Fired up after LAX were attacked by Team Canada 2 weeks ago, Homicide promises to exact revenge on them tonight. Hernandez adds that he knows Scott D'Amore will be at ringside coaching his team, but warns that if he takes one wrong step tonight, Hernandez isn't going to hesitate in putting him down. This is just a mid-card storyline really, and essentially designed to try and re-establish LAX after they weren't teaming together for the last couple of months. Returning to the ring, Sara Del Rey leads the New Age down to the 6 sides prior to their match up next. SDR says that they've been scouring the back all day, looking for who this mystery third woman is. They've searched every inch of the building, and there isn't a woman in the Impact Zone worthy of this hype, the anticipation, this so-called mystery opponent. She tells Hamada and Taylor Wilde to bring themselves to the ring and bring their big disappointment with them. Sara Del Rey and the New Age are kind of showing that they're concerned. They've claimed to have searched every inch of the building, so they're obviously a little bit worried about who this new contender may be, but outwardly they are trying to downplay this. They cannot downplay their reaction when Awesome Kong makes her return to TNA. We haven't seen her since Turning Point 2010. She is back and in very good form, albeit her in-ring performance isn't that great, but in terms of the booking, she looks dominant and dangerous and pins Mischief with a sit-out powerbomb in 11 minutes and 24. Sara Del Rey head and shoulders above the rest, but what we're doing here is simply reintroducing Awesome Kong, and throughout the match she makes it clear while the two don't actually interact, she has her eyes on Sara Del Rey. Following the match, Awesome Kong is joined by Hamada and Taylor Wilde, the trio standing over Mischief, who is down in the ring, while Alyssa Flash and Sara Del Rey watch from the outside. Staring down the New Age members, Kong indicates that Flash and Del Rey can come and collect their partner, but they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to return to the ring and potentially put themselves in danger, so they instead retreat up the ramp just by giving a look to her partners. Hamada and Taylor Wilde know to go and get a table from the outside. Awesome Kong then picks Mischief up from the mat and hits a powerbomb through the table, sending a message to the whole of the New Age, but specifically to the Knockouts champion, who watches on helplessly as her stablemate is taken down. Coming back to the second hour, Paul Heyman has already made his way down to the 6 sides, and one after the other he invites AJ Styles, then Mr. Anderson, and then Tyler Black to the ring. He tells each man that he needs them to keep calm, at least for the next few minutes, as he has something very important that he needs to say to all 3 men. Of course, on Evolve, AJ Styles was facing Mr. Anderson in a number 1 contendership match before the New Age got involved and caused that match to be thrown out. Heyman makes it clear that he wants just Tyler Black and not anybody else, and it's perhaps surprising when Tyler Black complies, coming down to the ring on his own. Paul Heyman remains stern throughout the segment, looking to re-establish the authority which has been questioned in recent weeks. He's trying to show that he is still a strong leader, and confirms that he has spoken to all 3 men about this earlier today, explaining why they're perhaps not directly at each other's throats from the moment they're in the ring together, and they all know what he expects of them. He is drawing a line in the sand and making the match for against all odds, and the odds will be stacked against the champion, as it will be Kurt Angle defending against AJ Styles, Mr. Anderson and Tyler Black. However, he confirms that if there is any contact between any of these 3 men and each other, or between them and the World Heavyweight Champion before the pay-per-view, that person will be out of the match. No questions asked, no excuses. They simply cannot touch each other before against all odds, and clearly with the opportunity at the World Heavyweight Championship, all 3 men are more than happy to be on board with this. Each of them get a little bit of a chance to speak in the segment, but the key point is making that pay-per-view main event, and an 86 rated segment is a really good way to advance that storyline and gain heat to it. We then go into the match that LAX spoke about earlier, with Homicide picking up a decisive clean victory over Tyson Dukes. Sean Spears and Scott D'Amore were at ringside, but Hernandez was more than an intimidating presence towards Scott D'Amore, which ensured he didn't get involved, and then it was just Hernandez to deal with Sean Spears on the outside, serving as a deterrent, and it meant that Homicide could cleanly defeat Tyson Dukes in 6 minutes and 18 with a cutter. However, after the match, with Hernandez focused on Homicide's victory, Sean Spears Spears blindsides him from behind before going towards Homicide in the ring. While Homicide can initially hold his own with Sean Spears, Tyson Dukes then returns back to his feet and helps Sean Spears take him down. Team Canada then continue to lay boots into Homicide on the ground until Amazing Red returns. He was injured just last month, but he is now 100% fit and returns to Impact, entering the ring, hitting a series of his impressive flashy moves, which sends Spears and Dukes packing. Amazing Red clearing off Team Canada on his own, and he's then joined by Homicide and Hernandez in the ring. The heels outnumbered, or on an even keel if you count Scott D'Amore, but if Team Canada want any chance of winning this rivalry, they're going to have to look for some backup. We then get an interview with Kurt Angle and Roderick Strong to promote the main event, and Strong probably lets it down a little bit here. It's not a very good segment. Kurt talks about the World Heavyweight Championship match that was made earlier tonight. He says that the longer it gets into his reign, it's inevitable that the challenges are going to become harder and harder, and he says that it's fitting this next pay-per-view is called Against All Odds, because he knows he's up against it in that match. Roderick Strong is then asked about Generation Me's betrayal from last week, but he says that as desperate as he is for answers and for retribution, he's got to focus on tonight's main event. He owes it to Kurt Angle and to the fight back against the New Age to do that. He doesn't deny that Nick and Matt have been playing on his mind. They still are, and they probably will be throughout that match. However, tonight he's got to think about a different tag team, the World Tag Team Champions, the Kings of Wrestling. So further promotion for that main event as we go into a match where Tara continues her comeback, picking up another victory and defeating Velvet Sky, showing pretty much how silly this idea that she is past her best has been, because she puts in a 62 performance, which again, she is still up there with the best in the Knockouts division despite having a stale gimmick. So something I can think about changing in the near future that should also help her. The storyline is asking us whether Tara can keep up with Mickie James. She can certainly keep up with and exceed Velvet Sky, hitting a widow's peak in 7 minutes and 11. There is no doubt about her ability there. Mickie James then joins Tara, celebrating in the ring following the match. Hamada and Taylor Wilde, who were in action earlier, come down to the ring, with Wilde confirming they are the next challengers. There is a mutual respect between the two teams as the commentators confirm that match for Against All Odds. We didn't have a Knockouts Tag Team Championship match at Genesis, but hopefully this one can deliver and make up for the fact that we haven't had the titles defended for a couple of months now. Mike Tenay then speaks with Kevin Steen in a sit-down interview, and Tenay asks him about his brief association with the New Age before he decided to sign with TNA. Kevin Steen says that first of all, he was never officially associated with the New Age. He was just brought in to do a job by Jimmy Jacobs. Considering he got fired a couple of months ago, he's been looking for work. He says that this next step was simple. When he lost that job, he needed to make ends meet, and he showed up at the Hammerstein Ballroom to get himself noticed. TNA didn't approach him, so he approached them, and he had to make sure that people stopped and looked. But he understands. People in the business talk, and if someone gets a reputation as a trouble causer like he has, it spreads. Jimmy Jacobs offered him a solution with a spot in the New Age, but right now Steen isn't about joining a movement. He's here to keep a roof over his head and the head of his family, and he's not willing to put his fate into the hands of anybody else, no matter how much history he has with them. So when Paul Heyman finally made the official offer, he took it, and now he's a member of the TNA roster. He's committing his future from this point forth to one thing: winning fights, and that starts with Samoa Joe at Against All Odds, starting to develop a bit of a standalone gimmick for Kevin Steen, who came in as the loose associate of the New Age, leaning in to the NXT gimmick that he had, where he was this family man who did bad things, but ultimately it was to provide, and hopefully that is something that can get him over as well in TNA as it did in NXT in reality. Before the main event, or rather after the entrances for the main event, the music of Generation Me hits, and they come out to the top of the stage, taking microphones before standing on the top of the announcer's desk. Nick and Matt have something to say to Roderick Strong. Standing in front of Mauro and Taz is just putting over how obnoxious they're being. We really want to put over the arrogant side of their personalities. In reality, there was that incident with Booker T that gained them a bit of a reputation for being disrespectful. A lot of that snowballed into the gimmicks that followed for them, so we're wanting to bring that on screen now. They say that Roderick Strong is used to ordering them around, but now he needs to listen. They are gold medalists after all. They then shine their gold medals into the light so that everybody can see it. but Strong never treated them how they deserved to be treated, because he wanted to make decisions for them. He wanted to decide the future of Team USA like they were just a couple of dumb kids he was bringing along for the ride. Well, who looked dumb last week, Captain? For Nick and Matt, it was never about representing the United States. They were representing themselves because they were finally given the opportunity to show what they were capable of in that World X Cup. But speaking of representation, they fielded some very interesting calls this week, and they know that Strong isn't going to like it when he finds out who made them the best offer. So teasing that they may be getting a manager, which is probably advisable given that at this point in their career they weren't the best on the mic, as the rating of this segment shows. There's been no great revelation, so it's not like it's a major thing, but when it's two teams so evenly matched as Kurt Angle and Roderick Strong and the Kings of Wrestling, any slight edge that is given to the opposition could prove decisive, and actually that is the case as the Kings of Wrestling, in an exceptional Impact main event, defeat Kurt Angle and Roderick Strong in 15 minutes and 9 seconds. Generation Me are hanging around during the match, and their showing off of their gold medalist particularly seems to get under the skin of Kurt Angle, who is of course an Olympic gold medalist, so he sees that there's a level of disrespect even in that by Generation Me. During one of these incidents, Chris Hero is able to elbow Kurt Angle in the back of the head while he is not the legal man, sending him crashing to the outside. This then leaves Roderick Strong at the mercy of the Kings of Wrestling, and eventually Castagnoli comes in, hits Strong with a Swiss death to pick up the victory. The Kings of Wrestling win the Clash of the Champions. Strong the weak link, but it is a really good match, and you can see Chris Hero continues to put in incredible performances. Claudio Castagnoli with 85s, which still makes him one of the top 5 performers in the company, is being overshadowed by Chris Hero's incredible performances. Kurt Angle, of course, we know what to expect from him by now. And following their victory, the Kings of Wrestling are handed their World Tag Team Championships. Standing tall, Chris and Claudio decide to send a message, each placing a boot on the chest of the downed X Division champion, further asserting their dominance. Kurt Angle by now is stirring on the outside. He notices this and he's angered by just the complete lack of respect. I've said that word probably too much in the last few segments, but this is what it's all about. He takes the X Division Championship and the World Heavyweight title from ringside, places them on the canvas, and he enters the ring to confront the Kings of Wrestling. Despite the defeat, he's not going to let this lie. Once they are face to face, Angle pushes Hero but is grabbed by Claudio Castagnoli. Reflexively, Kurt Angle headbutts Claudio Castagnoli, sending him down to the ground. Chris Hero and Kurt Angle then find themselves nose to nose, the two best in-ring performers in the company if you go off the in-game ratings, and Angle is daring Hero to take the first shot. Roderick Strong then begins to stir and returns to his feet, and at this point Chris Hero decides it's probably wise if he backs off. Taking the titles from the canvas, Roderick Strong hands Kurt Angle back the World Heavyweight Championship and takes the X Division title for himself. Kurt does not take his eyes off the Kings of Wrestling as they head up the ramp, and it's clear that the champion has had enough. We know the facial expressions that Kurt Angle is capable of, and I hope that he really puts across the fact that he is reaching his breaking point. The New Age are pushing him to limits, perhaps that he hasn't been pushed to before, and it's clearly coming out with him taking down Claudio Castagnoli with a headbutt and seemingly ready for more with Chris Hero. It's a good episode of Impact, increasing our popularity in 19 regions. We needed that after last week was a little bit of a disappointment. The main event 22 points better, so a significant difference there. And we're going to go now into TNA Evolve for this week, as episode 7 begins with a in-ring promo from Generation Me, who explain how they felt they were pushed around and ordered about by Roderick Strong, and they feel that they deserve, it's that word again, more respect. They've been patronised and almost treated like infants, but not anymore. They no longer wish to be known by the name Generation Me, as that was a name suggested to them by somebody in the back before they debuted a year ago. They are Nick and Matt Jackson. They always have been, and they always will be, the Young Bucks. Debuting under this name, they then defeat El Generico and Colt Cabana, Nick Jackson using the gold medal as a weapon in the process. Post-match, Roderick Strong confronts the Young Bucks. He says that they're talking rubbish, and if they had a problem with how he was leading their team, they should have told him. But they say that was always the problem. He didn't listen. And where is his gold medal? They are really of the mindset that winning the World X Cup was a huge thing, and it is the biggest achievement of their career, but in their mind, Roderick Strong doesn't think that that tournament matters. He used it as a launch pad towards the X Division Championship, and we're really trying to put over that this is where the bitterness is coming from for them. Bryan Danielson and Christopher Daniels then talk in a pre-recorded segment, unscripted, mediated by Paul Heyman, and it's just about them putting across their history in Ring of Honor and their history as rivals, further promoting that Ring of Honor show. And Paul Heyman also confirms another couple of matches for that event. We then get an interview with the Hooligans before their main event match with Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team. A little bit of a frustrated promo talking about their current situation. Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, though, gives them the perfect opportunity to prove themselves. Awesome Kong defeats Daisy Hayes, who we've brought back. She was on the Ring of Honor roster, so I was able to bring her up and use her. I thought that she'd gone, but we still have the chance to use her because we own Ring of Honor, so another benefit of owning that promotion there. But it's a short match that Kong picks up a dominant victory in. She stands tall. We all know what she's after, the Knockouts Championship. Prior to the main event, we then get a wrestler profile, a follow-up with Kurt Angle, who talks about his upcoming championship defense Against All Odds, probably the hardest of his reign so far. He also speaks about the Ring of Honor show, which he will be watching with a very keen eye. Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team then defeat the Hooligans in a steal the show match to end the episode. A highly competitive, very even match, but Shelton Benjamin gets the pinfall victory. Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team stand tall in the ring following the match. A little bit more storyline heavy than the previous ones have been. While it is its standalone show, I do want to merge the storylines of Evolve, which kind of is difficult when you're recording two at once, but hopefully we're now finding a way that Evolve doesn't just become the secondary show, especially when it's getting so many more viewers. I feel like we do need to incorporate Evolve more into the main storylines, and this is not the start of that, but certainly the most obvious example of things going from Impact and carrying straight into Evolve, especially when we're building to two big shows at the minute, Ring of Honor's 9th anniversary show and TNA Against All Odds 2011. Those are just a week away. We've got the go home shows to both of those events next week. Hopefully you'll join me for them, and thank you for watching.